In this session, we are going to talk about how Nerdio for Azure handles the topic of domains. This includes things like adding a domain, managed versus federated domains, and public versus internal domains. Enjoy the session.
First thing that we're going to look at are domains. I know it's kind of an obscure thing to start with, but it is a concept that comes into play in the users module quite a bit, and all the other modules like groups and shared mailboxes. So I figured we start there. Domains in Nerdio are available through the onboarding module domain screen right here. We've spent a long time on domain trust, so we're not going to talk about that at all. What we are going to look at is this section right here that says domains. There's a timestamp at the top, which means it is a cached list. You can refresh it easily from here, and you can add new domains. So here's how this works. When a Nerdio for Azure environment is provisioned, there is a default domain that starts with the account ID.nerdio.net that gets added into the account. This makes it so out of the box, the environment can be used, and it's got email addresses, it's got integration with Office 365, so it's a fully usable environment. And this domain kind of stays there. It's mandatory. It cannot be removed. It's analogous to the onmicrosoft.com domain that Office 365 provides you when you sign up. In addition to this domain that's there by default, whenever NFA is provisioned, when you plug it into or you plug in the credentials for Office 365 on the provisioning screen, it will go into that environment, enumerate all the domains that are there, and as long as they are verified, which means that somebody who added that domain has actually confirmed with a DNS record that they own that domain, as long as that domain is verified, it's going to also be brought into this view, and it's going to be added to DCO1, to the nerdio.int Active Directory as a UPN. So that domain can also be used right out of the box. But none of the address objects that will get created by default will have that domain. They will all have the 5009 or whatever account ID.nerdio.net, so that nothing can possibly conflict with any of the existing objects. Okay, so that's how domains come into play when an environment is provisioned. You can also add additional domains. So imagine, your Office 365 environment doesn't yet have any verified domains. You're starting out fresh. And now you want to actually add an email domain and start migrating users' email or create mailboxes, etc. What you can do, so you can click the Add Domain button, and you have two types of domains. There is a public domain and internal domain. A public domain creates a configuration in multiple places. It adds a UPN to Active Directory, and it also submits a request to Office 365 for the domain creation record. So let's go ahead and create a domain called vadim.com. We're going to make it a public domain, which means it's going to be both a UPN and it's going to be created in Office 365. Obviously, I don't own that domain, so Office 365 has to verify that I'm an owner of that domain, and what it will do is it will return back a randomly generated DNS TXT record that has to be added to that particular domain that I just added into this view. And if I'm going to go into DNS, and if I own that domain, I'll be able to add this record. Then I'll be able to click the Done button right here. Click OK. This would go in and try to validate that that record exists. And if it does, it will change from verification or waiting for verification to setup complete. That just means the domain is now fully usable in the environment. Before it's setup complete, it may be listed in this screen, but it's sort of in this temporary state where it cannot be used in NAP because it hasn't been verified yet. Okay, so obviously what's going to happen now is, this domain is being added. It's going to come in with a verification record. I won't be able to verify it, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And then this domain that I'm verifying right now should fail with a message that says, we couldn't find the TXT record, as would be expected. Okay, now the other types of domain that you can add is an internal domain. So let's say we want to add an internal domain. There aren't too many use cases for this, but sometimes you just want, another sign-in that's not dependent on a publicly available domain. So we can do something like internal.local, click save. This will not do anything in Office 365. This will simply add it as a UPN to the environment. It will become available right away, but it cannot be used as an email address. It can only be used as a username. Then the next thing that you'll notice is that each domain that's a public domain, in parentheses next to it, has a status. Either it's managed or it's federated, okay? And we spoke about this in the past, but the difference between managed and federated is where the authentication happens. So for managed domains, the authentication happens on the Microsoft cloud, and for federated domains, authentication gets sent back to the ADFS server or whatever the federation provider is. So in this case, we have the 5009.nerdio.net, which was created by default when the environment was provisioned and created as a federated domain. But this other domain that we pulled in maybe during provisioning, or maybe we added later on, the way I'm adding this one right now, the way I'm adding vendim.com right now, assuming it got validated, it will always start out as a managed domain. So let's see what the user experience looks like. So if I go to portal.office.com, I'm already logged in, so let me go into an incognito mode, go to portal.office.com, and I log in as, test at 5009.nerdio.net. As expected, I'm going to be redirected to the ADFS sign-in screen, right? Okay, now the ADFS proxy is probably off, so that's why I can't log in, but basically that would be the expectation. Now, if I go to this domain, test5009.nerdio.net, which is a managed domain, which means authentication happens on the Microsoft side, you can see I'm no longer being redirected. I'm being prompted for my password right there. So that's the difference. Now, how can you get from one to the other? And we had a whole discussion on what the advantages are and why you would want to use one versus the other. So I'm not going to rehash that. I just want to show you that if you have a managed domain, you can easily convert it to federated by clicking this button right here. So you can come in, you can click convert as federated, it will take it from managed to federated. Okay, what else can you do? You can obviously delete a domain, like this one I just added. I will not be able to validate it. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete it, which will remove the UPN or anything else that it has done. So that's going to clean things up. You can also set domain as managed. When you click on set as managed, what that will do is when you add a new user or group object, the email address that gets selected by default from the drop-down list of the domains list will be whatever the default domain is. The default domain is designated with a little star. So if I set this as default and click confirm without checking this box, it's going to move the star from here to here. This checkbox allows for a really easy, clean way of reassigning email addresses while retaining the old one. So imagine, company name is Adar, email address is adarit.com. We decide to change the name to Nerdio. The email address is now getnerdio.com. Both of them are in the system. We decide that we want everybody to have a nerdio.com address, but we don't want to lose the adarit.com addresses. We would come in here, click on Nerdio or getnerdio.com, set as default, check this box. It would go through all of the objects, add a getnerdio.com email address and set it as the primary reply to address, but it would also retain all of the adarit.com addresses as aliases on those accounts. Okay, so that's what this is for. It's a one-time thing. You generally don't check this box, for multiple domains. So the confirm button is available even with the box unchecked. So that's how that works. There is our error message that we expected. We don't have the CNAME or the text, the TXT record in place. So this domain failed. So let's go ahead. The validation of that domain failed. Let's go ahead and delete it. And now both of these are going to get deleted in a minute. Okay, remember that little eye I was telling you about yesterday? You can mouse over it. It will show you exactly what the error message is. If we go under management logs, management tasks, you can see this error. And there is the actual command that generated the error. And here is the more precise wording that was provided.